Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another session of research with me on Wednesday. So let's wait for some more people to keep coming in, and please say hi and hello to each other. We would love to understand what you guys are working on and from where you guys are, which country, which university, and just keep saying hi and hello, right? So today we are going to discuss something extremely important, and it's going to be a series. And this was long waited for. A lot of people emailed us, put it on different types of media, asked us for this sort of a series of sessions on how to write papers. Like, what are the things that you should be doing to write a really, really strong paper, a very good paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to today focus on that particular agenda. We are going to discuss the very first aspect of how to write a very good research paper. And what we are going to do is we are going to also um, uh, let you know what would be the upcoming series. So it's going to be a series of lectures, and I would also love to know how you plan it out, like when you are about to write a paper and when you're thinking about writing a paper, what's your process, or how do you plan it out, or what suggestions you have gotten from other people. Just keep putting it out on the chat, and that would help us to have a very nice engaging conversation. Hi, everyone. People who have already joined in, just say hi and hello to each other. We'll wait for some more minutes. Hi, Vidya. Nice to see you. Nice to see you again. Vidya, you should be bringing your students more, you know, or at least keep sending the links of these of these sessions, to keep sharing it with your students. It will be really nice. Great. Anybody else who has joined us? Just keep saying hi and hello. Hi, Amrita. Uh, is that the same? It seems like it's Vidya's. No, okay. So, hello, Amrita. What's your research background? What kind of research problem you are working on? From where are you? And if you're here for the first time, then a warm welcome. I'm sorry I am not able to exactly remember whether you are the same Amrita that I have in my mind, but yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of very still the Diwali wave that is lingering on. So yeah, so that's true with yeah. Amrita, would love to know what you are doing, and just share what you are doing and everything with other people. Would definitely love to know about what you are doing as well. Hi, hi, cute gamer. What's your name, cute gamer? And what kind of research you do? We still have some more minutes. Uh, and you know what? I will go a little slowly today, so that people don't miss out on the points. If you have any question in between, hi Ihan, wow, great to see you. I mean, Ihan, we recently connected on email, right, Ihan? So great to see you and eager to talk with you. Hopefully on Saturday, perhaps. Ihan, if you can let people know from where you are, and you are working on corpus linguistics, but which university and so on, it would be really good. Hi, Andy. Uh, Great to see you. I guess, Andy, it's your first time, right? And Ihan also, it's your first time. By the way, Ihan, am I pronouncing your name properly? Andy, please let us know what research area you're working on, what kind of research problem you're working on, which university, which country. We would love to know that. So you're Ihan, you are at Urbana Champaign, or I guess you are at Urbana Champaign, I guess, right? Yeah, we are trying to develop a Rax community where people can bond together more, give us a lot more ideas, crazy ideas about what Rax should be. See, ideally speaking, you guys should tell us what Rax should be, and we are here to build it. So that's how it should be, and you should be critically analyzing, just like any other research work that you do. You should be critically analyzing racks and give us your honest feedback. That's the only way we can give back to the community, right? Great. Andy, still to hear from you what sort of research you are doing. And Amita, I guess, yes, Amita. I hope Amita is still with us. I'm not very good at handling this multi-window um, presentations and then the chat and then windows and everything. So just bear with me if things are not that smooth. Oh, you're from Taiwan. Wow, what time is it at Taiwan, Andy? You're from environmental science and engineering, working on molecular genetics. Wow, that's really super cool. So it would be really interesting to know more about, how, molecular genetics is connected with environmental science and engineering. What is the application rather, or the domain of application. I guess it's pretty late right now in Taiwan, right, Andy? Great to see you, by the way. Andy has this really cool, Egyptian hieroglyphic icon. Yeah, we will. Don't worry, Andy. We will start very, very soon. Maybe in another 1 or 2 minutes. Other people, if you have already joined in, just say hi and hello. People would love to know each other. Maybe 30 more seconds, and then we will start. So this is going to be an extremely important series. What we did earlier on, and for those people who are yet to find all our previous sessions, you can go to our YouTube channel, and you can please don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell icon so that you can keep getting the notifications of all the videos that keep getting updated. Hi Sonia, great to see you. Is this your first time, Sonia? I'm vaguely remembering, probably I'm wrong. So just subscribe on the YouTube channel, and if Ketul is with us, Ketul, if you can just quickly share the link for the YouTube channel to subscribe, and specifically the sessions, the tutorial session links. And we also have those links on Discord, so please join Discord, where you can keep discussing a lot of different things. We are also going to give you a lot of materials, not just necessarily about racks, but about a lot of other tools, softwares, other kind of materials, every single kind of stuff that we find is going to be useful in your research, in your PhD. Okay, so let's start. Yeah. And in between, I'm going to check the chat, and keep posting your questions, right? So that I will be checking the chat in between, and I will be trying to answer some of your questions in between. So I'll take the pauses in between. I'll check the chat box, and I expect that you would be having your comments or questions or whatever, maybe your own perspective, or even if you don't agree with certain things that I have to say today, then just let it come through, because it's a community at the end of the day, right? Okay, so yeah, so writing the best paper, and of course I will try to make sure that we are trying to cover something which is broad enough to cover all the different disciplines, and not to be very much tied or rigid to a specific discipline, because every discipline at the end of the day has their own styles of writing a paper. But we would first, today what we are going to do is we are going to figure out how you can actually write a very good paper by reading a very good paper. So your starting point, and this is where I want to begin, that you cannot write a very good paper, you cannot develop the skill of writing a very good paper if your starting point is not a very well written paper, right? So that's what we are going to discuss today, how to read a very well written paper, right? So Just to make you aware of what RAX is, if people are not yet aware of RAX, it's a next gen literature analysis and comprehension tool. You can, I will be showing a little bit of RAX today, just to show you how you can do some of the things that I discussed today on RAX. So you will get a glimpse of RAX today, but you can later on after the session, you can check out RAX and see how RAX might help you. And just do let us know how it might help you. So, the thesis or the position that I'm trying to take is that knowledge acquisition leads to knowledge creation. So when you're writing a paper, essentially you're trying to create new knowledge, right? That's the idea of writing papers. So, but then it has to proceed with knowledge acquisition. So you first acquire knowledge by reading other people's good work and then build on it and get inspiration from it, both all sorts of inspiration, and then try to build on it and create new knowledge, right? So that is the process essentially. So what it all boils down to, that every well-written paper is a learning opportunity for you. And that's why you have to be absolutely focused when you're reading a very good paper, a very well-written paper, right? So there's a difference between a very good paper and a very well-written paper. So a very good paper may not be that well-written, but from the content point of view, from the significance of the research outcome point of view, it can be really a breakthrough paper, but it may not be a very well-written paper. So what I am today going to focus on is papers that are very well written, right? So we are going to focus more on the structure and the style and so on and so forth. What makes a paper a really good paper to, right? And from where you can get inspiration or learn, right? So, but then the major problem that we are going to face is how do we really find a well-written paper? How do we first find the well-written? We first have to gather a collection of, like a reading list of well-written paper. So this is my style, and I think that this is a pretty effective style of finding well-written papers. So what you do is that, let's say that you have a research problem on which you're working, a particular research problem. So what you do is, it's kind of like a 5-step process. So you first go and look at the most recent survey papers. I hope you understand what a survey paper is. A survey paper is a kind of paper that compiles all the most important works, all the most important approaches, and structures it in a nice way, and puts them and compiles them together as a survey. So it's kind of like a survey of the entire landscape of how other people are approaching the same problem, and how other people are formulating that problem, and so on and so forth. So what happens is that if you're reading a very, very good survey paper, which has been published in a top journal, then essentially you are getting to know all the most important papers that you need to read, right? You get to know them. So that can be an amazing place to start with. So in your particular discipline, if your discipline has that norm of writing survey papers, because there might be disciplines where the concept of writing survey papers may not be there, but if your discipline has the norm of writing survey papers, then that can be a very good starting point, right? But the problem, a related problem can be like, you might ask me this question that, well, I understand that part, but how do I know what is a top journal? How do I get to know what is a top class journal? So I'll show you a particular website where you can go, and I have mentioned this website before as well, but I will give you the link also, but I'm just showing you a particular way of figuring out what can be a very good way to get to those top journals. So there's this website called schemagojr.com, and I'm going to put it on the chat for you. Okay, so that's the website. And what you do is, over there, you can actually look into journal rankings. Go over here, click on journal rankings. And over here, what you can do is you can look into the subject area. So let's say there are these kind of subject areas broadly: agriculture and biological sciences, arts and humanities, biochemistry, genetics and molecular biology. Then you have business management and accounting, chemical engineering, chemistry, computer science, decision sciences, uh, dentistry, earth and planetary sciences, economics, and so on. Right? You can see that it's quite a broad category. And then if you choose a particular category, let's say I choose agriculture and biosciences, biological sciences. Then within agriculture and biological sciences, you get to choose subcategories. So let's say agronomy and crop science, or animal science and zoology and so on, as you can see. So let's say I choose agronomy and crop science. So now within agronomy and crop sciences, you can now go over here, the types, and you can choose, let's say, journals. So I can choose journals. Let's say I choose journals. And now if you look at the most top journals in terms of from which year you want to see, how they score. And you can, let's say I go back to 2017. And then I can also look into the citable docs or the total sites. So I can go with total science and apply sites and apply that, which is the total number of citations. And then you can see that over here, I have something. So by default, what they do, they have their own kind of metric for journal ranking, which is SJR. So SJR journal ranking is pretty much like how Google, page rank algorithm works. So I find this metric to be really, really good, much better than impact factor, but that's my personal opinion. Why I find this better? Because what it does is that it actually looks into it kind of looks into the quality of the citations that are coming from other places, and not just the number of citations. So if somebody is citing this particular journal and that somebody has published in some really good top-notch journal, then it gets more points, right? And it also diminishes a lot of the self citations. So self citations doesn't get that much of point, right? So and that's how it kind of like tries to figure out how much of cross pollination is happening across multiple journals, and that's how it ranks it. You can also look at it from the H index point of view, and then there is another um, place where you can actually get the impact factor list. I will be putting it up, I promise, on Discord later on after the session, where I will be giving a lot of other play ranking links where you can find the journal ranking and how the journals are ranked. So this is one way of figuring out what are the journals that are really, really good journals, right? Then what you can do, so that's the first step. Then the second step is uh, you add all the reference papers in your reading list. So which means that when you're reading the survey paper, you collect all the survey paper, add all the survey, reference list in your survey papers. And actually you can do this very well in Rax. I'll show you how very easily you can do it on Rax. And then the third step is after you add all those papers, which you keep collecting from these top-notch survey papers, then you need to prioritize. And one way of prioritizing these papers is to see how many citations this paper got, right? And how do you know that? How do you find how many citations, how many people cited this particular paper? And I will show you how to do that. But before that, the rationale behind step number 3. Why do we need step number 3 is, you see the point, the hypothesis over here is that if a lot of people are citing these papers, it would mean what? It would mean that they are highly read. Well, I mean, not exactly so, but we can assume that they are highly read papers. I mean, a lot of people read those papers. So if a lot of people are reading those papers and citing those papers, then there is a possibility, of course, probabilistic, but there is a possibility that they are well written. Okay, you can kind of like, it's more like a selection process, and you can figure out that, well, probably since a lot of people are reading these papers, probably they are not that difficult to understand. And since they are getting citations, so they are not that difficult to understand. Although this assumption itself has, kind of, it's probabilistic. I'm saying it's not that it always necessarily have to be true. Then that's why the fourth step is also important, which means that you need to figure out where the papers have been published, whether they are whether they have been published in top-notch journals, or for computer science kind of disciplines, whether they have been published in top-notch conference proceedings, right? So that's the step number 4. So you go further down, and it's kind of like a funnel. You're funneling it down. And the final step is where you narrow down to those papers that have won some awards, like best paper awards, and so on. And you can find that information by going to that particular year's journal page or conference proceeding page. Usually, such awards are given in conference proceedings, so you can actually go there and figure out what's going on. You can also so these are the kind of so the best paper award is given at on in this in using multiple different criteria. Of course, originality and all the other things are important, but another very important thing that they see is how well written this paper is, right? So this is this is the step number 5. And there you can also do something. You can also after step number 4, you can go to your supervisor or your advisor with that listing of whatever you get out of step number 4. And then what you can do is you can discuss that with your supervisor or with your senior lab mates, or with your community also, and you can then try to figure out, what can be the priority in terms of which papers you should be reading first and which papers you should be reading next, and so on. So these are the 5 steps to actually go towards a well-written paper. Now, again, I want to emphasize over here, I'm not talking about good papers in the sense of results or in the sense of some novelty or originality. I'm talking about a well-written paper, right? So if your discipline is do not have the norm of established norm of writing survey papers, then you can actually go for review papers. So review papers are those papers which actually do a critical assessment of another paper or a different paper, and the authors would be putting their own opinions and so on. So those papers are also very good, because if there is a review paper which is reviewing another paper, then that paper must be substantial. It's an important paper, and that's why that is getting reviewed by other people, right? So that is also so you can go and narrow down, and you can collect all the review papers, and then also you can proceed to step number 2 and step number 3 and step number 4. So that can be another thing if there aren't too many survey papers out there. I would like to show you how you might want to do this thing in Rax. So just to make you understand, or rather to make you aware of the fact that if for those people who are yet to figure out where Rax is, you just type Raxter.io. That's the website, and you land upon Rax. And after that, it's a very simple sign up process. You can also sign up just by your email for the first time if you just want to have a taste of Rax. And then over here, you have these projects, right? So this is how your entire project universe looks like. So where all your research projects will be put in one place, and some of these projects you are currently working, some are related to each other, some may not be related to each other. Some particular research project you might be collaborating with specific people. Some projects you may not wish to. I mean, you're just doing it solo, and that's how it would all look like, right? So and you can create multiple such research projects, right? And within the research project, what happens is like this is one particular research project that I am currently working on. And this is, since Rax is all about literature analysis, so this is your starting point. So you have this reading list, so to say, and you can populate this from by uploading all the papers that you have in your computer, or you can add through PDF URLs, or you can also upload a reference file if you're more used to using some reference manager for citation purposes, and organizing papers, or whatever would be your purpose. Or you can also import from Google Drive if you are more used to collecting your papers on Google Drive, right? So these are the 4 different ways in which you can put your reading list. So you can just dump all of your reading list over here. Now what happens is, let me just go through, let me see if I have a survey paper to show you. And okay, let me just have a long list. Okay, so here is a survey paper, as you can see. Research paper recommender systems, a literature survey. So what I would do is I would open this paper inside Rax. So now I'm in the reading room, so to say, of Rax. And the moment I open this paper, what happens is Rax is also going to figure out, it searches through a hell tons of other research papers that is there inside Rax repository, and it tries to figure out what could be other papers. Like you see there are other survey papers that came in which is related to this. So you can also keep attaching more survey papers. So as an example, I can keep adding more survey papers over here, or attach more survey papers. If I want to read it later, or if I really want to read them, I can add it to my literature list, so it gets added to my literature list over here, right? So like this is another survey paper, and it gets added to my literature list. So Rax is able to detect sort of like whether it is a survey paper, and it tries to bring you more survey papers. Like over here, there is another survey paper on the same problem, and I can attach that also, right? And also it will tell you, whenever it has the information, it will tell you like IEEE access. So it will tell you what's the impact factor of what's the impact factor, what's the site score, what's the SNIP. So these are all the different metrics. SJR, I showed you SJR, H index, and so on. So you can make a guess of how good this particular journal is, and on the basis of that also you can decide whether you want to read the survey or not. Like this is again another survey. You see, it got you so many other survey papers, right? So that's really very good. What it does, Rax does. So that's one thing. Now, what you can do is you can just go over here, which is the info panel over here, and then over here you see the references. Now these are the references that are made by this particular paper, right? And whatever paper you would like to read further, you can just add it to your literature. Let's say that one of the papers that you think is going to be very important for you, you can just go and add that in your reading list, right? So let's say that this is a particular paper that you want to read, so you can add it into your reading list, and it gets added into your reading list, right? So the idea is that even the references can be added very easily. So you just go over there and look up the references which are down below. So these are the references, and you can very easily add them into your reading list. And if you look at the reading list over here, you see these are getting added over here, right? So this is one very easy way of figuring out, what are the papers that you would want to read from the reference, and you can actually do that. The other thing that you can do is you can also go and look into the key insights. Now, key insights, what it does is that although it doesn't really work right now. It works very well for research papers which are like normal research papers, which will be contributing their own own novelty or originality. But so survey papers, it may not work that well. Sometimes it works really well, sometimes it may not work that well. So I should be giving you that disclaimer. But like it detected that it's a survey paper, and it's, down below it's showing that, review and survey papers and books and reports and thesis, it may not work that well. But still you can have a try and look at it how it does. Now this is also a very good way to figure out, how different people have sort of formulated the research goals. So how other people have formulated the research goal, and what are the presumptions made, what are the approaches made by different references, like 117, 264, 286. So this was what is the most important thing that came out in the approach, and that's why probably 117 and 264 and 286 reference would be something that you should look at, right? So this is something that might be very important. And also over here, there is another approach statement that came out of here, which seems to be very important as far as the originality is concerned. So you can just go and look into the originality. And so 342, 300, 345. So these are all the stuffs that looks like, would be very important, because over there authors have made certain important comments about their originality and so on, and comparisons. Methodology also, you can go and check out what are the cited zones, if there is any cited zones picked up by the paper. And as you can see, 186, 187, 188. So that may be some good papers to look at. Also over here, 758 and 80. So now you can kind of like zoom into, out of all these references, 355 references, you can actually zoom into those papers that that key insights, which is essentially the AI. One of the AI features that we had, it actually goes and looks into all these important things and buckets it this way. And you can actually look into comparison and adaptation also. This is also a very good place where you can say, check, what are the papers you should be looking at, right? And you can start reading them. So this is one way in which you can actually collect your what are the well-written papers. So that's part one of today's discussion, right? So now part two is going to be the 12 signs of a well-written paper. So, but before entering part two, I want to take some questions and see if there are some questions or not. So let me check out if people have some questions uh, or how you figure out. I would love to know from all of you, like how you guys figure out what is a well-written paper. How do you get to know what is a well-written paper? Hi, Umesh. Great to have you. Yes, you will. I mean, it's what happens, Umesh, is that it automatically gets recorded in YouTube, and you have the link in YouTube, in our YouTube channel. So after the session is over, it will automatically get recorded in YouTube, right? Hi, Olukunle. Great to see you back. Uh, yes, Covenant University, Olukunle. Great to see you back. Any comment so far, or any question so far, or any kind of, I mean, I would love to know you, as I'm saying, I would love to know your process also. I mean, how do you get to discover a very well written paper? Or if you want to contradict, or if you want to have contrary viewpoints to what I just said, my 5 steps of finding a well written paper, you can also let that know. I mean, uh, because it's a very open discussion, and I really want to know your opinion as well. but I'll wait for 1 minute and then probably I will resume for the next half, which is actually the core part of today's discussion. Research guides, yeah. So definitely yes, and that's why I told you that in step number 4, after step number 4, you can actually go to your research guide and you can have a validation. Why I would tell you to go through these steps, because a lot of times it saves a lot of time. If you go through this step 4 before going to your research guide, it saves a lot of time, because even your research guide has to now go through all the new papers that are coming up. There's plenty, and the major problem is the volume and the velocity with which papers are getting published. So it's extremely difficult for the research guide, and because I am a research guide, I know it's extremely difficult to be always updated and always be reading about what is a good well-written paper and what is not a well-written paper every single week, and then try to give it to the student. It's not going to be very easy. So usually what will happen is that you feel like this is a well-written paper and you would come to me. Let's say my student feels like it is a well-written paper, and he or she will come to me, and then I will tell her that, yeah, this is a well-written paper, or this is not a well-written paper, or something like that. So what I'm telling you right now, these 5 steps, is more about narrowing down to that list, which you can then bring in on the table of your supervisor, and then you can actually get a second opinion about them, right? So this kind of like helps in your process, a lot. And for you can also do it inside racks, like collaborating with your sharing the paper with your supervisor and so on. So Kitu, if you have that link, which last session we talked about how to do literature review and literature analysis collectively as a team with your supervisor and all. So you can later on watch that video as well. So now, yes, so this is the crux. So 12 signs of a well-written paper. Okay, so what are the 12 signs of a well-written paper? So sign number 1, when you're reading a paper, you should first straight away look into the title, and you will always see that a well-written paper has the title which is clearly describes the research question or the research problem, or what is to be proven. What is the standpoint of the authors, like what does the authors, or what do the authors want to establish? That is absolutely clear. If not the approach, a lot of times people will also give you a general overview of how they did it, like how they approached or how they tackled the problem. But many times that's not that much of a necessity. But the most important thing is that it should be absolutely clear from the title, what is the research question, what is the agenda that you want to establish, right? And every good paper will have that. But that is just the first criteria. The second sign is that the research question itself has been crisply formally described. Now, formally can be mathematical formulation or can be other kind of formulation that is more, more prevalent in a particular discipline. But by formally, what I mean is that the the way the community defines that problem, using concepts or techniques or symbols or jargons that are accepted, that are well established in the community. And it has to be extremely clear. That language of describing the research question has to be extremely clear. There should not be any kind of ambiguity when it comes to the description of the research question, which means that after reading that portion, it should not be that, hey, are they also trying to solve this? I did not get it. If that question is coming up, then it's not a very well written paper. So let's say I'm reading your paper, and after reading your research question, I feel like, well, are they also trying to solve that, or it's not really very clear because it's kind of like more abstract, and it did not make it very clear. It kind of almost like in bullet points that this is one aspect of the problem they are trying to attack. This is the second aspect of the problem they're trying to attack. What exactly are they trying to establish? That's not very clear. Then it's not a very well written paper. The second point I want to describe, and this happens a lot, I've seen in many papers, is that most of the time, one aspect of the research question is in page number 2, another aspect of the research question is in page number 4, another aspect of the research question is in page number 7. That's not a well-written paper. So that is not a well-written paper, and that is not something that you should imitate, right? So a very well-written paper will have the research question, properly, crisply, and fully and completely defined in one place, maybe in a separate section altogether, right? And it should not be scattered across the paper. So that is something that has to happen, right? So that the reader, is very easy for the reader that he gets it in one page and in one section. That, okay, so this is the problem that needs to be solved. This is the problem that the authors are attacking, right? He should not be doing back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and going from page number 4 to page number 7 and again back to page number 2. That should not happen, right? Okay, so sign number 3 is that all new concepts that are required to understand the research question, let's say that you are formulating a new research question or a modified version of a research question, and that modified version is something which is new. You are the first one who is proposing it. Then all the concepts that are required, that you are introducing in order to explain that research question, they need to be defined in a separate section, clearly, crisply. And if that is not happening, let's say that's not a very well-written paper. So if you're reading a very well-written paper, you will see that this is the third characteristic of a well-written paper, that whenever there is a new concept, the authors are introducing a new concept, they make sure that all those new concepts are very crisply defined, very clearly defined, without any ambiguity, in a separate section altogether, right? And so that, again, you don't go back and forth and back and forth. Always remember this, that the more you are going back and forth in a particular paper, the more you know that it's not a very well-written paper. Okay, so that's another sign. And sign number 4 is that the assumption. So if the authors are making some assumptions while they are trying to attack the problem, that, okay, I will attack this problem, this is my research goal, or this is my research objective, but I will make certain assumptions around it. And if that is happening, then again, those assumptions should be highlighted, like properly emphasized, that this is assumption number 1 and assumption number 2 and assumption number 3. That should be extremely well documented, well highlighted, emphasized very clearly. And ideally, that should also come all together in one place, along with where the research problem is getting described, in that same section, or maybe in a subsection within that section. So that is extremely important, right? That your assumptions are all in one place, right? And sign number 5 of a good paper, very well written paper, is, when you're reading the approach or the method or the technique or the argumentation that the author is giving in order to prove a standpoint or take a standpoint, there aren't missing links, which means the links would be the steps that you would take, like, in order to make the final argument, I make argument number 1, then I make argument number 2, then I make argument number 3, and then finally I establish my point. Or let's say there is an approach or a method, let's say an algorithm. So my step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, what is that entire process, the pipeline? No step should be missing. So if that is happening, then it's not a good paper. So all well-written paper have the steps clearly written down, right? So that's sign number 5. Sign number 6 is that every step or every argument in that approach, has a definite and clearly written starting point and ending goal. In the sense, what is the starting point and what is an ending goal? In the sense that, imagine that a particular approach is like a journey, right? And the journey has a beginning, and the beginning is essentially the research question that you want to establish. And because you want to establish that, you step out on a journey in order to get more evidences. So your journey is towards findings, towards results, so that you can use that result to come back to your starting point and to establish that starting point, which is the research question, right, to support your claim. So the journey is the approach. Now in the journey, what happens is that you take different steps. Step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, and each step is like a milestone, should have a milestone. And that milestone is what I call is the ending goal. So every step should have an ending goal and a starting point. And the starting point should be very clearly written, and the ending goal should be very clearly written. Which in the sense that nothing in that end goal, like what exactly this step should achieve, what should be the outcome of this step, is clearly written, and what should be the input, and or where from where the step actually starts, the argument actually starts, is clearly written. Nothing is missing over there. If that is happening, then that's a very good research paper, a very well written research paper. So that's sign number 6, right? Again, let's take some questions and see if there are some questions, and then we will complete the remaining signs, right? Okay, so hi Etta. Etta, I think this is your first time, so a very warm welcome. I guess if it is first time, a very warm welcome first of all. So top journals, what Etta is commenting is let me just go back to my check out. Oops. Sorry, I told you I'm not very uh, good at windows, multiple windows. Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. So top journals, most cited journals. Do we have good papers in journals are not highly ranked too? For instance, this approach may just be promoting certain ethnic class inequalities. Just thinking. Yeah, it's a very good kind of it's a very good comment actually. And let me just go back to what I just said. So if you look at it, you'll see that when you talk about top journals, and that is why I mentioned this thing, which is I love this particular website, because what it does is that instead of impact factor, because in impact factor that thing can happen, Eta, which you are just mentioning. But over here, the way this is ranked, in terms of SJR, first of all, it is, the ranking is you can very specifically go to that, your own specific subdomain, and then look at that. The other thing that also that's very good about the SJR is that it takes into account how other people are, whether other people are, how much other people are citing that particular journal, and what kind of quality journal that journal is citing. So is the incoming edges sort of like if I have, like if I am, let's say, so how many other journals are citing plant biotechnology journal, and what kind of citations plant biotechnology journal make. And then it also looks into the quality of those two things, like whether top journals are citing plant biotechnology journal, and also whether plant biotechnology journal is citing top journals. And by top journals, again, what they by top, what they mean is not impact factor. What they mean is SJR, right? So which means that if you have a very good journal, but the journal itself is has some bias, in the sense that people usually don't cite that particular journal or something like that. But even if that particular journal is citing good journals, like quality work, then also the SJR will go up. And it's also a relative ranking if you look at it this way. Because now what is happening in this ranking system is that it's actually within agronomy and crop sciences in the overall domain of agriculture and biological sciences. So this ranking is not in general ranking. It's actually very specific to this particular specific sub area, right? So it would be very difficult, even if it may be very well possible that, okay, let's say that something is not getting, for all kinds of political reasons, something is not getting that much of, that much of citation. But still, in a relative grading, it should be at least in the quartile one. So Q1 means quartile one. So at least in the quartile one, or if not in the quartile one, at least in the first half of quartile two. So maybe, so these are all, you see, so many people. Okay, so at least in the first half of quartile two, if not quartile one, at least that should happen. And if you look at this, some of these journals are quite, you see, like this is a Korean journal, and this is a Chinese journal, and this is a Brazilian journal, which is in quartile one, you see, and it's not even an English journal, and it's still ranking high, right? So it's a Swiss journal, and that's what I'm trying to tell you. That it's a lot better. I mean, it's kind of the better version of having nothing almost. So that's what I had to say, right? Okay. So the other question is uh, from Odokunles, can we come up with a review article that we can use Rax for and thereafter publish in a good journal? Yeah, please do that, because what you can actually do something very interesting in Rax. So let's say that you are trying to write a review article, right? So what you can do is you can start creating a draft over here, and you can see that create a review article, and you can say, okay, I want to create a new draft, let's say review of a particular paper, let's say paper X. And then what happens is it opens up, and then as you start writing your paper, and by the way, I need to mention that you can also kind of mix up your text with latex scripts and so on. And also I need to mention that when you start writing something, please make sure that you you make a license of your work. You put a license of your work, so that if you think that that's your original work, right? So okay, so then you start writing, and while you are writing, you can again look for, you can select certain sections. Let's say this is I'm just writing something nonsense. This is the starting of my review on paper X. Now, of course, the results will come quite nonsense, and you can actually select certain sections, and after selecting this section, you can now search for more people that are related to that section, and you can attach them and again read them and so on. Oops, there is a problem. Uh, so yeah, so maybe that, perhaps that's a bug, but I have to check that. Okay, so you can actually look for more papers related to that's a problem related to that. So there's a bug going on, but I guess probably it should be fixed. Uh, so that is something that you can do in Rax, right? So let's see if we have some other questions, and otherwise I'll kind of finish up with the remaining ones. Uh, I always find it difficult to find sufficient theoretical foundations for people. Uh, how can we tackle it? Okay, so if I'm understanding the question properly, Umesh, if the question is that there is a particular approach, let's say, which has been taken by the authors, and you're not very sure about whether it actually has some theoretical standpoint. By the way, this question, this critical assessment is really good. You should be asking these sort of questions. And if you're not able to get there very well, one thing that you can do in Rax is you can actually go to uh, let's say a particular um, let's say this is a paper, I'm reading this paper and I'm not sure about the theoretical foundation of the approach. So what I can do is I can go to key insights, let's say, and What I can do is I can go to the methodology or even the originality. And then what I can do, I can now look for more papers related to, let's say this is the key aspect, the key originality of the paper. So I can look at more papers. I can select this section and I can click on research papers, and I can look at more papers related to this particular um, this particular uh, this particular section, right? And then there is a very well possibility that I might get another paper that talks about the theoretical foundation of this paper, right? Of this section, or rather of this novelty or originality which has been made. Or I can go to deeper down and I can say that no, very specifically I want to know more about this particular sentence. Then also I can do the same thing. And now Rax is going to figure out whether there are other papers which specifically talk about this particular, the idea of it in this particular sentence. And also, and can give you that. And many of these papers, some of these papers can actually deal a good deal about the theoretical foundation. I can also do something else. I may also go and look into some light reads, and light reads would be magazine articles from tier one conferences, workshops, from tier one blogs or magazines like Science and Nature, or technical papers from top-notch R&D labs and so on and so forth. And I can just click on that. And then again, I may find some easy to understand articles which are related to what I just selected. And I can then go and look into, like over here, I can then go and look into that. And probably I may find some good theoretical discussions on this particular aspect. So many times I may be but stuck at a particular concept, right? So I can go to the paper, and let's say that in the paper itself, I know that, if it is a well-written paper, then it will have certain kind of, let's say, prerequisites or something, or even where the problem has been described. I can go to some specific aspect of the paper. Let's say I can go to, if I am not, let's say that I want to know more the theoretical aspects of certain things. Let's say, what does scaffold tasks mean, right, in the context. So I can just select that scaffold task. And the moment I select it, this context menu pops up. And then I can go and look for research articles. And the moment I do that, now all those papers are going to come out, which is related to scaffold task in the context of this paragraph, right? And also in the context of this paper. So, and you can now look at more papers related to, specifically related to this particular aspect of machine learning. And you can then attach it. And the moment you attach it, it gets attached to that particular thing, so it's kind of like a sticky note. And you can then click on the sticky note, and you can later on read this paper. Also, you can add it to your literature list if you want to add it to your literature list and read that. So that's one way in which Rax can help you to figure out what are the important, to know more about, to build your foundation on the theoretical aspects. I don't know whether I answered the question properly. Vidya has a question: how to formulate appropriate tools following research methodology, like following survey methods. Well, we will talk about this topic later, Vidya, because this is a particular topic that I really want to have a separate session on, and we will look into it. Uh, okay, Andy has a question. Can we include citation into the draft literature review? Yes. Right now, you can't include a citation just the same way as a reference manager works. That's kind of because we are primarily not a reference manager, so we are going to do that later on in the future. We are going to bring that feature, but right now you can't. But what you can do instead is you can actually, let's say, so you can actually, link up certain things. Like over here, there is something called, so, so there is something called links over here, as you can see. So links. So you can link up a particular thing with a particular citation like this. Okay. I think there's some issues with the draft today. But anyway, so this is a link. So you can link up the link, and the moment you have the link linked up, so the link is going to come up, and you can then put the link of the citation over here. You can always do that. Or you have these references already attached with the things, and then you can also put the link of these papers over here, like link it up over here. So I don't think I think something is wrong with the draft right now. But hopefully it will be fixed by tomorrow morning. So yeah, so that would be like the what you can do. Uh, can we be able to research books or related? See, if the library is connected, which means if your library Vidya is partnered with us, then we can actually also do books, which means all the books that are there in the library will also come. In the same way that we did over here. Look, I'll show you one with an example. So let's say that. So So let's say that you sort of, yeah. So let's say that summarization of whatever, you can just choose a particular or any selected, and then this would come up. And if the library is partnered, then you will get to see this library resources. You can also look into other resources, but if you click on library resources, then by default the books are going to come, which are related to this particular section. So it understands the idea. So it's not just about keyword matching, as you can see, but it understands what actually this thing is, and it would try to give you that book that's related to this particular thing, and you can attach it, or you can also reserve it. So if I attach it, it gets attached. Later on, also I can go over there and I can either delete the book, or I can also look at the book and then reserve it from my library, uh, where the book is available, and I can reserve the book from there, right? So that's sort of like what can happen if the library is partnered with us. Then that can happen. Also, it's not just books, but ebooks and any kind of other stuffs, right? So, Andy, can we include? Okay, I think I've answered Andy's question. How do we, so Umesh has a question, how do we write a good literature review when there are very less research done on that topic, or maybe the topic of interest is very new? Okay, I'll come to this question, but let me just quickly finish off with the remaining points, and then I can quickly come up with the question, because I will take another 2 minutes to finish up with the other points. So we were with point number 6. So sign number 7 of a good paper is all the key approach steps, that is the most important ones, are highlighted and emphasized. So the emphasis has to be there on the most important approaches. So, which means that if all the steps are kind of getting equal attention in the writing style, then it's not really a good style. So the most key important thing has to be emphasized and highlighted by the authors. And if that is happening, that's a very well written paper, and you should follow that style. The sign number 8 is definitely that the end goals of the key approach steps always lead to some significant findings. So for every step, the milestones should be significant findings or results, right? And then sign number something related to that is sign number 9, which is that each one of these significant findings has to be analyzed methodically, which means there is a methodical analysis of those findings, and the analysis is used to support the original claim or the original standpoint. That has to be there. And if that is not happening, if the key approaches are left out there, in which means that the authors are saying that, yeah, this is something which is a very important step, and the step doesn't have an intermediary findings or results, and if the result is not analyzed properly, it means that there's something incomplete about the paper. It's not a very well written paper. And so that is another important thing, that you need to understand that all the most important steps should lead to a result which should be analyzed to support your original claim. So it should be used to support your original claim. So that is going to happen in a very good paper, very well written paper. That's sign number 9. Sign number, so sign number 10 is that all kinds of comparisons, whether it is a positive comparison or a negative comparison. A negative comparison means that the authors are trying to disprove something or trying to say that, well, this is not a good approach or whatever that is, must have the corresponding citations, right? And these citations should not be like, it should refer to the right paper. It should not be like it's referring to some other paper which refers that the actual paper. No, it should not be a via reference. It should refer to the right paper, the paper which actually talked about that thing whenever that comparison is happening. So that is very important. Sign number 11 is that all kinds of facts that are getting used to support the argument or to support the actual claim, the actual research question or the research standpoint, must have the necessary and corresponding citations, right? So that is sign number 11 of a very well written paper. Sign number 12, the final sign, is that figures and tables should be very easily interpretable, which means that the way you are arranging the tables and the metrics you are using, the measures you are using on the figures, the way you are arranging the figures and how you are explaining the figure, in the labels, the legends, every single thing has to be very easily interpretable. And as a reader of the paper, I should be clearly able to figure out that there's a clear correlation between your analysis of the findings, which means what you're the results that you're trying to analyze, your analysis, your observation and analysis, your conclusion of the results, and the figure. So there has to be a very, very easy way of, it should not be that you're trying to explain something and the figure tells me something else, and I have to work really hard to figure out that, actually the figure really supports what you're trying to conclude. So that should not happen. It should be very, very direct. The way your analysis, the kind of analysis that you're doing and the kind of figures and the tables that you have, right? So that's sign number 12, okay? So that would make a paper a very well-written paper. So these are the 12 signs to watch out for. And there is a 13th sign, and the 13th sign is actually the absence of this. That whenever you're reading a paper, this should not happen, that you actually doze off to sleep, okay? It's too mind-boggling and you just doze off to sleep. That should not happen, right? So that's kind of like the 13th sign. So far about the, how the structure of a well-written paper. Now, there are certain narrative styles that you need to observe very closely, good narrative styles. So this is kind of the last thing that I will discuss. Style number 1 is most good papers actually follow a top-down approach. By top-down approach, what it means is that it first starts with the bigger picture, then it goes into the more details, then zooms in and then zooms in. So it's not a zoom out process, it's rather a zoom in process. And it's almost like peeling the onion, right? So if you get that analogy, so it's almost like peeling the onion. So you start from the outer shell and you go inside. So that's kind of the style, which is one of the very good styles to follow. The second style is that your sections and subsection titles should be very clear, should not be fuzzy, and should specifically tell the main crux about, you know, what the section content is about. The style number 3 is that it's extremely important that you have a cliffhanger sort of at the end of every section or every subsection, so that your reader keeps is provoked, keeps going, in the sense that there has to be a connection between the end of one section and the beginning of the next section, and that connection should be there at the ending of that previous section, right? And the connection has to be done in a way such that it's appealing. It makes people read the next section with attention, right? And if you look at very well written paper, they have that cliffhanging effect, right? You keep going on, you keep feeling that, hey, I really need to read properly the next section, right? So that is what happens. Style number 4 is no new jargons for concepts that have already established jargons. Don't do it. So if there are established jargons for something that you want to describe, use that established jargon. Don't come up coin your own terms all the time, right? Style number 5 is consistency in symbols, abbreviations, voice, which is active voice versus passive voice. If you're using an active voice, use the active voice. If you're using a passive voice, use the passive voice. Usually what happens, it's kind of like very discipline specific. Some disciplines prefer active voice, some disciplines prefer passive voice, but whatever that is, whenever you're reading a well-written paper, look at that voice, what kind of voice they're using. And also you will see that they don't change the voices too much. It's very little variations in it's not that in page number 1 they're using active voice, in page number 7 they're using passive voice. It doesn't happen that way. So be consistent about the voice, be consistent about the tense. Whether it's present tense, you're using present. If you're using present, be consistent about that. If you're using past, be consistent about that. If you're using past perfect, be consistent about that. And also it's very discipline specific, like whether to use present or whether to use past or whether to use past perfect is very discipline specific. But again, be consistent about that, and which is the standard norm of your discipline. Okay. Style number 6 to watch out for is you should not do. This is something which is very important. You should not do forward references of sections and subsections. Which means that if you're saying that to understand, let's say in page number 2, you're saying that to understand this section, you have to go to page number 4. That's not good. That's called forward for referencing, which means that, hey, I am trying to understand this part and you're taking me to page number 4. So what do? I go to page number 4, read that, and again come back to page number 2. That's not good, right? Backward references are always good, but forward references, try to minimize it as much as possible. When that's not a good style. You will see that almost all the well-written papers do not have that many forward references. Very, very limited forward references. And even if there is a forward reference, it will not be the forward is going to be very short, in the sense that it's probably going to be the next section, and not going to be like some 2 pages away or 3 pages away, right? So don't do that. So we all know writing a paper can be draining, and this is what all this series is all about. So this is the first part of the series. We are going to come up with the next part would be, be your own reviewer. So when you're writing, how to be your own reviewer. So we'll talk about that part in the next on next Wednesday. Let me take some more questions. So yeah, you like the 13th sign, okay? So how do we write a good literature review when there are very less research done on the topic, or maybe the topic of interest is very new? Also, can we explain meaning or significance of Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 journals? Okay, so let me first go for the easy one. So it is the second part of your question. So Q1 means quarter 1, which means that let's say that you rank all the journals from, let's say that in your discipline, there are 100 journals which has been ranked, let's say in SJR, 100 journals, 100 different in your sub area, right? So what do you do? What is quartile one is that for the top 25%, then the next 25%, then the next 25%, next 25%. That's how it is. It is done. So quartile one will be the top 25%, right? So that's how it is. So it is sorted in terms of the score, and then it's chunked in terms of the quartiles, right? So as simple as that. Now, coming to the first part of your question, yes, there can be a lot of issues where you won't find a survey paper, especially in a topic where it's so new that you don't find a survey paper, right? So then try to go for a review paper. If you don't find a review paper, then what you can do is you can check out all the papers that are available in that particular topic, and then check out for the signs, the 12 signs, and see which one of the 12 signs are matching, and just try to emulate that, and don't consider the other signs, right? So the other parts, because what I'm saying is that the best possible paper would be having those 12 signs. Now, it may very well happen that a particular paper has 6 of those signs, but the other 6 is missing. Some paper may have 8 of those signs and the other 4 are missing. So just concentrate on those signs, right, when you're reading a paper. Oh, no, no problem at all, Umesh. I love questions actually, and I want everyone to ask me a lot of questions. Eta, okay. Eta has a opinion. Okay, so Eta's opinion is there's always a lot of literature about every topic since there is no new research. You can look at. Okay, so I feel Eta over here there are certain disciplines where the research is essentially to come up with a new research question. So it happens a lot in humanities, and it happens also a lot in mathematics or mathematical sciences, that your research is to come up with a new question. That is your contribution, almost like you're coming up with a new research question. So it sometimes happens that way, that some of the disciplines are like that, where people tend to go for those research questions or research problems which are less popular, which are less trodden. So it happens a lot in humanities. That's for sure. Thank you. Thank you, Vidya. Thank you, Umesh. So stay tuned for the next part of the series, which is how to become your own critic. When you're writing a paper, after writing a paper, your first job is to become your own reviewer, sort of. So how to become your own reviewer. So how would a very strict reviewer think about your paper? So taking the other part, kind of like putting yourself in the other shoe and then looking at it, right? So that's what we are going to discuss next time. And that's another very important thing to do when you're writing a paper. Any other question? Thanks, Umesh. Surely. Thanks, Eta. My pleasure. Join the Discord community and start discussing, all your research problems and all. And I'm always there on Discord. So I'm always waiting for some questions, and I will keep on giving answers. Don't wait for a Wednesday to come, right? So just keep putting your questions. It doesn't matter, I may not be able to answer all of your questions, but if I have other colleagues who are working on different things, so I may be able to get some answers from them as well. Thank you, man. Yeah, that's the objective. Hi, thank you, Andy. Yeah, suppose I have 100 papers. How can I be able to evaluate all the papers using the feature that is Pick a Way Around? Well, I mean, Andy, I would highly, kind of recommend you to go through some of the videos that talk about how do you quickly use key insights. So key insights is one feature where instead of reading the entire paper, you can go through the key insights, and that's a lot quicker and a lot better way to actually, select certain statements of the key insights and then select more papers. And that's how you can actually quickly go through all those 100 papers very, very quickly. So that's one way of doing it. So yeah, so there's a thanks, Keith. Also, there's a particular uh, video for that, Andy, so you can go through that. Okay, all right. So I think it's kind of like time, and we will. And I guess, Andy, it's kind of quite late for you as well at Taiwan, and I guess I don't know about other people. Next time you should come and tell us from where you are. Uh, and a goodbye to all of you. And we are definitely going to meet on Saturday with a guest. And the topic is going to be extremely interesting, and it's going to be really fun. I'm not going to reveal that right now. People is going to reveal it, but it's going to be a very, very different kind of a topic and very exciting to, So this guest is a professor in one of the leading tech universities in India. So we are very, kind of lucky to have him. So we will talk about something very, very different and very exciting. Uh, okay, so thank you, and stay very safe and take very good care of yourself and your family. Yeah, bye.